Welcome aboard, it's Captain G with another Operation Stalemate 2 update. This time I'm going to look at the map here for the island of Peleliu, cover some of the geography and how that impacts movement and combat, and then focus on the Japanese forces and what they can do during the game. In my next video, I'll focus on the Marines and the Army units, and then we'll start gameplay. So first off, focusing on the island, as you come off these light blue shallow sea zones, there are only 3 beaches. So these beach areas, purple 1 and 2, amber 1 and 2, and then the main landing on the west side of the island where the Marines are landing. So here the Marines landed unopposed, and now they're running into the Japanese, just like they would be unopposed up here on amber. But if they were to land a force on purple beach, then they would have to fight at a -1 attack value to get into the land zone. The beach is part of the land zone, so they would land on the beach -1, and they cannot use their combined arms. And I'll talk about that when I talk about the Japanese bonuses. Additionally, you have flat green terrain. That's just movement 1, no combat modifier. This particular beach here has a green with a 1, same as here, and then here as well. Those also 1 movement point to get in, and then a -1 on the attack value. So this is sort of a hilly terrain, if you will. These dark greens are swamps. Swamps have regular movement to move in, but if armor move into a swamp, they have to roll a d12, 5 or less, and they're good. Otherwise, they're lost. They get stuck into the swamp. So there's no reason to send your armor through one of these. You would obviously go through, and that gives you some narrowing choke points. So those are the swamps, marsh areas on the island. After the green one, then you go to this yellow rough number 2 zone. So that's 2 movement points to move in, attack value at -2. And then the dark brown mountain peaks. There are a few on the island of Peleliu, 1 on Angar, and that's 3 movement points to move in, and you're -3 on your attack value. So if we look closely at the Japanese forces, let's go down here and see what forces the Japanese have. So we'll start with this beachfront. I have several different sculpts that I'm using, but all of these pillbox bunker are the same. They are bunkers. I do have one that I'm using for coastal artillery, and I'll show you that when we get to it. But bunkers can pair up 1-to-1 with infantry or artillery or machine gun infantry or even armor, and protect them from shore bombardment or aerial attack. So this guy is good here on purple 2, and in purple 1, 2 of the 4 units could be protected from that bombardment. And if there is a hit, it would hit the bunker before it hits the unit. Start with the militia. Militia, basic Japanese unit, attacks at 1, defends at 2, can pair with artillery to attack or defend at a +1. Then you have the Japanese Army infantry, attack and defend at 3. They also get the +1. So this guy would be defending at a 4 when he's paired with this artillery. This is a Japanese heavy machine gunner, attacks at 3, defends at 4. He also has a range attack. He can attack an adjacent space without taking damage. And that's, I think, cool. And he, for that land zone that he's in, can fire AA at 2 or less. So heavy machine gunners are pretty interesting. And then finally in this zone, the artillery attacks and defends at 4, can pair with infantry or militia to increase their attack or defense rating. Additionally, they can pair with heavy machine gunners only on attack, if I'm reading my notes correctly. They have a range of 3 land zones, so they can fire in their current, if you move them in, or from where they currently are, they have a ranged attack 1, 2, 3 zones away. So you can imagine the volume of artillery fire that the Japanese would be able to rain down upon the Marines with those ranged artillery attacks. So that's regular artillery. And then moving to this land zone back here, I have 2 more examples of bunkers, infantry, and then I have a heavy artillery. Heavy artillery attack at 5, defend at 4, and they have a range of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they can get all the way to the airfield from here, fire all the way over here. So one more move from these Marines and they're in range of this heavy artillery unit all the way over here. Heavy artillery also have a bonus that if their target land zone, so let's say they were shooting at these Marines here, have only 1 to 6 units, you only roll 1 die. But if the land zone is stacked, and 12 is the max stacking limit, with 7 to 12 units, the heavy artillery, you roll 2 dice for damage because the enemy is so compacted close quarters that those shells, those hits will cause twice as many casualties potentially. So that is kind of cool. Then you have the AA. They defend regularly at a 1 if they're attacked by ground. And against air, they're defending at a 4. And they can defend any adjacent zone. So if the Marines were to call in an airstrike here, this guy could fire in defense, which is a neat feature. When you get down to this level where basically a unit is a reinforced company, the tactics of the levels are very different from Axis and Allies or Global War 36 or any large-scale campaign when you're talking divisions and army groups. So that's the AA, the heavy artillery gun. This is a commander. Now these sculpts are not decorative. They actually serve a purpose in the game. Commanders defend at 1 by themselves. They also allow units that are in the same land zone with them. If they choose to attack, they take off 2 on your roll. So if you're attacking at a 2 and you roll a 3, that 3 minus 2, you're down to a 1 and it works. And then if you're defending, a minus 1. One thing I will tell you about the rules, probably could have used another, I hate to be critical, but probably could have used another edit. I found some mistakes in the rules, references to the island of Okinawa in the rules and different aspects like that. Some inconsistencies between the name of zones on a map versus in the setup or in the rules. So you just gotta, when you find those, most of the time the mistakes are obvious, but just forewarning you to take a close look at that. So commanders, they get that artillery. The reason I mentioned the rules then at this time is because there's a lot of minus values, minus to the roll, minus to the attack value, and it's somewhat confusing on when a feature is benefiting a unit versus when it is hurting it, and you really have to pay close attention to the verbiage. Is it a plus to your attack? Does it make a 2-unit attack at 3, or does it just add or subtract what you need to hit or what you actually roll? The language can be tricky, so keep an eye on that when you can download the rules yourself and take a look at them as well. So the commanders are pretty neat and effective, and Japan has a number of them on Peleliu and 2, I believe, on Angar. So that brings us to Japanese armor. So the Japanese armor attack at 4, defend at 5, have movement of a 6. So clearly these 2 units could combine and strike down. They also can pair with bunkers for protection. So these 2 bunkers could protect, the AA and the armor, or the armor and the infantry, and leave the AA out. They do need to be wary of swamps. And with a movement of 6, they can move easily into the mountains, which is very helpful for the Marines, but will be an issue later for some of the other units. So that's really it for armor. I covered bunkers. Okay, so let me come over here where I have a wide variety of bunkers. Again, these are all just the different things I had available, but these in the mountain looking sculpts with the barrel of the cannon pointing out, those are standing in for coastal artillery. Coastal artillery are a ranged artillery unit. They have a range of 6. They can fire out to sea, but they have a big minus if they do that. They can also fire ashore. They have the same double dice modifier that the heavy artillery has. So that's pretty powerful. And they attack and defend at a 6. So that's impressive, and it takes 2 hits to destroy them. They're the only units that I found on the Japanese side that takes 2 hits to destroy. So those are all the basic Japanese units. There are a couple unique features. I'll start with the bonsai dice. Each commander starts with a bonsai token. And I know in the intro video I talked about how the Japanese tactics were to not go on crazy bonsai attacks and waste strength. But there is a unique, little complex rule for bonsai attacks. You turn the token in, you get a bonsai die, and then if you roll it, and I assume it's a 1 out of 6, because if it comes up red, that's a fail as opposed to this. But you roll it, and then it'll allow the units making that attack to get a modifier -2 on their attack roll. So whatever they get, subtract 2 to see if they hit on their normal units. And it makes their attacks first strike. And if a unit misses, they die. But the US does not get victory points for the units that are killed in a bonsai attack. And every unit and almost every land zone becomes victory points, and I'll talk about that later. So the bonsai, I'm going to play with that, try it, see how I like it. It can probably be simplified, but I just need to understand it better and then play with it. So I probably will do a couple bonsai attacks just so I can test that mechanism and see if I like it. These 2 octopi are not part of this game at all, but I did receive another supply drop from HBG, and these guys were in there. These are samples. These are not the colored sculpts that are available. I think it's like a dark blue. These are both gray. So it was a pleasant surprise to see them in there. I really like them. I'm going to figure out what color I want to paint these. But these are, I think right now, HBG has a special. If you order a unit and put the word octopus in your order, you'll get one of these as well. So I wanted to share those, show those off. The other unique aspect to the Japanese units, infantry, militia, and commanders can move through tunnels. And what that means is there is no movement cost bonus for the Japanese infantry. You can go from a mountain into regular green, back into a mountain, up to one of these. It all costs 1 for infantry militia commanders because they're moving through secret tunnels. If the Marines take over a land zone, let's say they take over this land zone here at the edge of the air base, the Japanese here can move underneath that land zone occupied by the Marines and pop up on the other side over here and come out and attack. So that's very unique. I hadn't seen that before in any HBG game. I don't remember that. That was not part of Okinawa. So I really like that feature. Reminds me of the tunnels on General Six Star's Iwo Jima map that I really liked. And this is a lot more freeing. You know, it gives basically every land zone is a tunnel. So it allows the Japanese to move almost anywhere and pop up anywhere in range behind the Marines. Very realistic. So that was kind of a cool feature. So the bonsai attack, first strike, the terrain, tunnel movement, the commander features. Talked about the coastal artillery. There are Japanese reinforcements. At least I believe they are. This is in a section that right after this started talking about naval reinforcements, which I know have something to do with the Okinawa game, so maybe a mistake, but I'm going to use it. Starting on turn 9, and it is backed up by this counter because you see the Japanese symbol there, that 1 barge, and I'm using this to represent the barge, every turn will appear in C-Zone 11 and drop off an infantry. And these are the infantry on the rest of the Palau Island group coming in to reinforce Peleliu. So I like that aspect. That gives incentive to the Marines to secure this island up here. It gives the Japanese an opportunity to bring in some forces to counter the 321st Infantry Regiment that reinforces the Marines later in the game as well. So those are the terrain features of the game. There is one thing, just because of the angle of the camera, that I didn't talk about, and that's the dark blue sea zones. So if coastal artillery fire into here, and that's where the Navy is, and that's where the large transports are, there's a -4. Artillery can fire there as well, so that basically means they're firing at a 1. These guys are firing at essentially a 1, and the coastal artillery at a 2. So most likely it's better to fire at the beaches, at the Marines themselves. So that's all of it. That's it for this video. Next video we'll talk about the U.S. Units, unique aspects and abilities with them, and some of their features and what they can do, and the types of units that you have available to you. And then we'll start the playthrough. This is Captain G, over and out.